Glad to see everyone. Let's begin our conversation.
If you owe someone in one area of life, will you lose something in another area of life? Does the balance between different areas of life actually work?
Every person, all of us, has 3 areas of life. There is personal life, there is work, and there is health. In every person's life, one area will always have more suffering, the second a bit less, and the third much less. In other words, for every person, suffering is always distributed throughout their entire life, across these 3 areas, in different ways. Accordingly, let us say a person did something wrong at work, made some mistake, their health will still suffer if they have problems there. Or if a person did something wrong in the sphere of health, it will also affect their personal life if that's their weak spot. For example, if a person doesn't cleanse their energetic blockages and their problems are going into their personal life, that means most of the problems will go there. Well, that means that they always impact where they are supposed to according to fate. That means that it won't necessarily be the case that if you did something in one sphere, let's say you deceived someone in business, you will definitely have problems in business. Of course, such a direct correlation exists. This doesn't mean that if you hit someone, your family will fall apart. Most likely, you'll simply get hit back in return. That means that such a direct correlation exists, but it doesn't always work. Therefore, there is no such direct correlation. But a direct correlation can be observed in such matters that are related to. Let's say there is a direct reaction, a quick reaction. For example, a person cheated on his wife and his family fell apart. That means that it's a quick reaction, a direct one. That's it. Or a person insulted their boss and got fired from their job. Well, that means that such a direct reaction occurs as a result of some strong actions that instantly produce a reaction. But if the action didn't produce an immediate reaction, then the person's suffering will go into the sphere that is most pronounced in their life. That's how it is. That's how it works. Although direct reactions do exist, they are not arithmetic actions, so to speak. It's not like I did this much in this sphere and received that much suffering in the same sphere. This is incorrect thinking. Next question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Next question. Do karmic debts exist, and what does this mean? Can we avoid them or work out?
All debts are karmic. The word debts refers to money. Well, that means that karma isn't just about money. Karma impacts health, success in life, and the amount of fame and power. This is all connected to rewards and debts. When a person does good deeds, they reduce their debts. Piety. Piety means that you have debts minus a certain fate. You acted too selfishly and went into deficit. If we speak in accounting terms, your life is going into the negative. Debts mean living in the negative. Health can go into the negative, either at work or in one's personal life. Perceive debts as something that you took, for example, money, and don't give back. These are also debts. Broader. All spheres of life, even in the emotional sphere. Let's say you behave emotionally incorrectly. You might go into the negative and you will be emotionally suppressed. You will try to feel joy, but life will keep suppressing you again because of debts. That means that you to people now fate doesn't bring joy to you. Therefore, there are people who are very emotionally suppressed. They can't smile. They're constantly weighed down. This happens very simply. A person, let's say, is very sensitive, and any unpleasant action can cause tension. This happens because of debts. But we all perceive this world differently depending on what is comfortable. And we have good and bad. It depends on our comfort. We can consider a person bad because we feel uncomfortable with them, or good because we feel comfortable with them. This is called duality. A person always perceives this world from their own position. This is normal. We've settled. There you go. But you shouldn't draw conclusions from this. We draw conclusions from this thinking this is how it is, then this is already called unreasonable existence. That means that if you feel comfortable or uncomfortable about something, that's only yours. You shouldn't generalize this. It's a dangerous tendency. And this discomfort, if you feel uncomfortable while comfortable, means that you have debts in this direction. Let's say everyone is comfortable cleaning the kitchen, but you're not. That means you have debts in this direction. It's not that all kitchens everywhere are bad, or that people don't understand me and so on. These are your problems.
Enough money to live on. How to increase income and get out of debt. He took out loans for his own material pleasures. He's asking if he can get out of all of this, and how.
I immediately remembered this. And if vodka interferes, then to hell with your work. How to get out of these loans? I really like this kind of question. You have to pay them back. How else can you get out of debt? I don't know. There are some clever bankruptcy schemes out there, but from the perspective of fate, you still don't get out of your debts. If you look at it from the perspective of karma, your debts, let's say, are not really debts at all. Now, if you were deceived, let's say someone deceived you and you became in debt, then this is not exactly a debt from the perspective of fate. Most likely, these are debts from past lives rather than from this one. If the bank is robbing you and forcing you to pay, the interest keeps accumulating and so on, then these you were deceived because the interest rates that are reasonable. This is not a percentage that corresponds to karma. That means that if you take bankers who rob people through mortgages, they are all in debt, they will all go to hell. Here it's very important to understand one thing. There are people with inherently great powers. Let's say a person has merit. He has a lot of power. He can use this power to influence people so that they easily give him money. This is the banking system. This means that in your next life you will go far down, because in this life you are using a store of merit to rob people, having a lot of power. But this is for a limited time. When your power runs out in this life, you can no longer rob people or live in prosperity. And therefore bankers are often killed, imprisoned, robbed, or their bank unexpectedly goes bankrupt. In other words, this sphere is very unstable. One thing happens, then another thing happens. Either the bank goes bankrupt, or the bankers get robbed, or they die unexpectedly, or they get killed. This is all connected to the fact that this system is, in essence, not entirely a truly benevolent system. Well, to some extent, this doesn't mean that you can't work in banks at all. That's not the case. It's just that there are certain difficulties there because there isn't always enough fairness. But if you were deceived and you took out loans because of your greed, then it's like in the song from a children's fairy tale. It's about greedy people, braggarts, and fools. And there's a formula there that's used to deceive people. You don't need a knife for a greedy person. Just show them a copper coin and do with him whatever you want. A coin or the keys to an apartment. The person got greedy, wanting to live beyond their means. And then he ends up paying many times more. Nobody even wants to know how much because it's very difficult. This is very difficult to accept. For example, if you take a mortgage, in some cases you don't even know the exact amount you'll have to pay from the very beginning. Is it known?
It's written at the end, isn't it?
Yes, 3 times more. 2-3 times the amount. This is fraud. This cannot be, this should not be. And they say 10%, but this is such a tricky figure because it's not 10%, it's 100, 150% or 200%. Well, that means that it's just fooling people, they're simply deceiving people, and that's it. Moreover, they're cunning now. You first pay off the debt and only then your own share. This is pure deception. That means that if a person, let's say, can't continue making payments, he didn't pay the full amount, then he doesn't get the apartment because he only paid off the debt to the bank. Therefore, it's better to live on your salary. This is the best thing that can calm, happy life. Therefore, hard in order to accumulate enough to live calmly. This is a life of passion, life in pure goodness. A person always maintains balance, always learns and works only as much as they can handle, because he needs to have enough time for self-improvement, for prayer, for love, for friendship, for family. All of this requires time. This is the right way to live. Such a person is poor at first, then they accumulate devoutness, and as a result they have more and more prosperity. His social status increases and he then lives happily. I worked as a janitor and security guard during my first years at university. And I was constantly engaged in self-improvement since I was 12 years old. When my devoutness increased to a certain level, I started giving lectures at the age of 23. From on, I immediately had the means to live, although I never charged people much money. And then I made a decision that all the money I earned, I will donate giving lectures to spiritual purposes from treating people. And this went on for many years, about 10 or 15 years I lived like that. Later I started accepting money from lectures, but my devoutness kept growing. The more you help other people, the higher your devoutness grows. You need to put in less effort to have money, and you can do more good deeds. And this way you can keep building it up infinitely. But debts don't depend on piety. Piety is one thing, debts are another. It's very interesting to understand that there are types of activities that repay debts, and there are those that don't. For example, 11 lifetimes ago I offended my elders, and good deeds toward people do not repay this debt. And it's very difficult to get rid of bad karma in relation to elders because you need to serve elders. And if you have such a debt, you don't feel like serving your elders. And this is a problem. I mean, of course, it is resolved through service to elders. Whether you want to or not, you force yourself and serve. It can be any debt. For example, disrespect toward women, and accordingly you don't want to respect women, and respecting them is very difficult. Disrespect for men, unwillingness to obey them. This is a debt. And it's very difficult to obey and repay. Wherever there's a debt, it's difficult for you to act. That's how our life is structured. You cannot repay a debt through other actions. You can only repay it through the action that is connected to the debt. Therefore, if you've taken out loans, pay them back. The best thing is not to be afraid of this, but to gradually pay off these debts. Pay it back as you can, as you're able, and live calmly, kindly, knowing that the time will come when God will free you from this problem. To advise people who do foolish things. I can advise people who haven't made a mistake yet. Or a person comes up to me and says, my joints don't bend anymore, my head doesn't turn. What healing practices should I do to be healthy? My dears, healing practice performed when there is still an opportunity. And if everything is already done, then what healing practices are you going to do? Therefore, as they say, you need to start doing everything before you're completely done for. And what should I do if I'm already completely in debt? At the very least, don't take on new ones. Pay it back. Nothing terrible. You'll spend about 5 years in debtor's prison, then life will become easier for you. Your brain will start working a little bit. That's how it is. I don't know what to advise. Some people declare bankruptcy there, scheme somehow so they don't have to pay anything back to other relatives and so on. And then the bank stop demanding payment. Well, it all varies legally from case to case. Some people get lucky, some don't, but it's better not to get involved in that area at all. It's better not to take on any debts at all. All of this is debt. Left your wife, you have debts. Left your husband, bad karma. This is a very dangerous, difficult life. It weighs you down, weighs you down. It's better not to owe anyone anything. It's better not to hurt anyone. Especially elders and especially holy people.
So, Evgenia, what should I do if I can't work? It's very difficult to do things for yourself, to do something for yourself. Is this a work debt, and do I need to force myself?
This is a complex question because it's unclear why the person cannot work. Most often there is not enough energy. This means you need to do healing practices. That's right, this is a very good question, the debt of work. This is a really great question for modern life in general. Because when a person works themselves to exhaustion for money, they work more than is comfortable for them. So he worked and he hasn't overworked himself yet. There is a zone when you should stop, which means there are no debts. If you work more than is comfortable for you in order to have more money, but usually a person can work a maximum of 7 to 8 hours. If you work even 1 hour more, let's say, then that hour becomes a debt. That means that you're getting this money at the expense of your health. That means that you have a debt to your body. Moreover, you can't repay it because you're tired today, and today you won't be able to perform healing practices to recover. And wait tomorrow you also won't be able to perform healing practices to recover. And then your health accumulates in the form of money that you 100% won't spend correctly. 100%, because there are all kinds of living standards. It's one and the same. For example, if a person is in a regular cafe or in a fancy restaurant, what are they actually doing? They are simply eating. Right? Well, it can be delicious anywhere. You can eat bread with milk in the village, and it will be very tasty. It's almost free. Such a restaurant that you'll be paying it off for a year afterward. What does living mean? What kind of car you have, what kind of apartment you have, in what city you live. All of this is about living standards. The higher the standard of living, the more you have to work to maintain an ordinary life. Because when you've eaten something delicious, I repeat again, it can be either for free or for a lot of money. For example, when I lived in India, all the products were very cheap there, and we cooked the most delicious food. There was a lot of greenery, we constantly ate greens, fresh salads, and a lot of delicious things. And at the same time, we paid twice as less than in Russia. Itself is not always expensive. Wealth accumulates and must be repaid. The only way to repay it is to spend time on your health. But if in this direction they don't think that they need to spend time on their health, and moreover their age-related debt. That means that the older a person gets, the more time they need to dedicate to their health. If this debt to your health accumulates, you've exhausted your strength, you're not replenishing your health, then your standard of living begins to deteriorate. Quality of life is not only the number of good deeds, it is also the amount of healing practices a person has done and the amount of prayer. Because there are 3 layers of life. If a person, let's say, does good deeds but doesn't do healing practices for their health, then their quality of life declines in terms of health. And when the health level drops to a certain point, he will have to either start doing healing practices after all, but it will be harder. The more a person deteriorates, the harder it is to pull themselves back. Or you will have to balance your health with the help of medications or various types of treatment. What is treatment needed for? To keep the body in status quo, but to balance it in such a way that it doesn't suffer from low energies. Because when the body is at high energy levels, it doesn't need any medications at all. My body heals itself from everything. It doesn't need any medications because it lives on high energies. If the body lives on low energies, then you have to drink these medicines by the bucketful to balance everything out. Your salary won't be enough to pay for all these pills to drink and consume. Because all medications on earth are intended only for balancing. And the cause of diseases is that you have a debt to your health that you will have to repay. Or in the form of medications that you will pay for, that is, you were earning extra money that you weren't meant to have according to your fate. For the damage to your health, you will now simply spend your whole life thinking about health because your health has deteriorated. Or you'll start living correctly because you can restore your health through healing practice. There is also an age-related debt, because the older a person gets, the more healing practice they need to do to maintain the status quo. Or the process called aging will begin. What is old age? Old age means that you're declining in something. You can deteriorate in health, you can deteriorate socially, or deteriorate spiritually. As people age, they engage less in spiritual practice, or they destroy their families, or they stop working, or they start getting sick. All these things happen because a person is aging. Old age means that a person cannot maintain their existence properly. A person can be not old even at 80 years of age. They can perform healing practices in such a way as to live well, happily, do good deeds and pray. In this case, they are not old at 80 years of age. They lead an active lifestyle. For example, Shalva Amonashvili, how old is he already? 90-something? 94. He's 94 years old and he still travels around. He is not an old person, he feels great. This is what I'm talking about. I don't feel old at all. I don't feel it, for example, when I'm running and I look at the young people next to me. Or when I go into ice-cold water, everyone is shivering. That means that I don't feel old. Being old means that a person can barely handle a little breeze and they're run. Or they can't run, their heart immediately starts hurting. Old age means that a person has no resources or work ability. So old age means no strength, no health, no opportunities. But if a person lives a balanced life, they don't experience old age. That means that you need to keep growing throughout your life, keep developing until you're 100 years old, keep developing, keep growing, do more healing practices. Therefore, there is an age-related debt. The older you are, the more you need to give back. With each passing day, the burden becomes. That means that you need to give more. If you don't want to walk more, then you'll be walking on. Well, and the debts that you owed also emerge throughout life. They emerge in the form of bad faith. We get very angry. It's unpleasant for us when our husband leaves, cheats, or something else happens. But there are people who live by the rules. Living by the rules means that you perform healing practices, do good deeds, and accept the blow of fate upon yourself, taking the blow on your own shoulders. It means to accept one's cross. Then you can easily get rid of losses. You can pass the test without losses, restore everything, get your husband back, restore everything without losses if you live by the rules. And the rules are as follows: you need to work as much as you should, perform healing practices as much as you should, follow your daily routine as you should, and eat what you should. Forgive everyone no matter what they do. And this means living by the rules. But if you haven't forgiven, you've created a negative connection with that person. That means that you disagree with what God is doing to you. These are your problems because whether you agree or not, you'll still have to deal with the consequences.
Moscow Katyusha is getting ready. While Moscow is getting ready, so, Alex asks, what is the most important debt before God?
The most important debt to God is to draw closer to God. Because getting closer to God means that we are doing something for Him. Life in this world is arranged this way. Why does our life end? Why is our lifespan decreasing? On the higher planets, which I am currently studying, people go to heaven. Some will live 120 years, some 140. I saw that there people will live for 300 years and even 4. That means that they will live longer than because they did more good than what is required for living on earth. That means that they lived such a beneficial life that now they will live where one can live for a long time. A shortened lifespan means a small reserve of devoutness. A person goes below the earth because the lifespan is shorter, life is harder because the reserve of devoutness, and you can end up in the spiritual world where your life will never end at all. You will remember everything forever, live forever, your life will never end. All of this depends on how close you are to God. Everything we do in life is all the activity of God. All the processes that occur in the cells occur in our body. The air we breathe, the sun that shines on us, all of this is God's energy, and we use it only to get closer to Him. God does all of this for us constantly. That means that we shouldn't think that everything we have here is free. Constantly shines the sun for us, which gives us the energy of happiness. He constantly gives us air, which gives us the ability to work. He gives us water, which calms us. He gives us energies. These energies gives us people, gives us opportunities to live, gives children to women. The Lord gives all of this. In return, we must do something for Him. This is a complete, proper life. And what should we do for Him? We must come to know Him because all He needs is gratitude. And gratitude means that we are drawing closer to Him. We pray, we believe in Him, we think about Him. And that's enough. Can you imagine? He provides us with our entire life, and all we need to do is simply think about Him, believe in Him, serve Him, live according to His commandments, live correctly. That means that He organized all of this. This entire universe, this entire material world was created so that we could develop. It was created for only one reason, for living beings. If all living beings left the material world right now, it would collapse immediately. There would be nothing to do here. This world was created for us so that we could live here. God created this world for us so that we could develop. Living doesn't mean stuffing yourself to the brim. It means elevating yourself, developing yourself. Well, that means that you'll have to eat too. Money is needed in order to live. We need to breathe, we need the sun, we need children. All of this is necessary for life. Otherwise, a person will go crazy or will die if he doesn't breathe or drink water or eat. I just came out of a fast. I haven't eaten for 36 hours. It's already hard. I haven't eaten for only 36 hours, and it's already hard. Constantly need to consume God's energy for life. But how much we give back can be determined. If a person goes to heaven after this life, it means they gave more than they took. If a person goes to the spiritual world, it means they have paid off all their debts. That's it. He doesn't owe anything to anyone. He goes to the spiritual world. There are people who don't owe anything to anyone at all. They are called Atmaramas. They are rejoicing within themselves. What does this mean? Why do they rejoice within themselves? Because they constantly meditate on God's energy. They constantly glorify the Lord in their hearts, and therefore they owe nothing to anyone. They are not obliged to create a family, not obliged to work, not obliged to do anything. Even if they work, God will provide them with everything necessary for living. A holy person does nothing, just sits and prays, and people bring him food. And even if he says nothing to them in gratitude for this food, good fortune immediately comes into their lives. Everything starts to work out for them simply because they helped a holy person, a person who is very dear to God. But usually holy people do more for everyone else than non-holy people. They don't live for themselves. They give people the most valuable thing, spiritual knowledge, the most valuable, the greatest wealth that exists in this world. In the Bhagavad Gita, karma means activity or debts. It is said that such anything back if he is satisfied within himself, if he desires nothing in this world, wants nothing, and is always focused on service, he owes nothing to anyone, and therefore he will always be happy. No bad karma will impact him, and he is not obligated to work, get married, or do anything else. He is not obligated to go to the army. Do anything at all in this world, and the Lord will support him himself. Holy people owe nothing to anyone. On the contrary, all are indebted to them, even just for their presence. So what is a holy person? I've already told this story many times. When I was in Kyiv giving lectures, one person came to me. My acquaintance actually came up to me and said, "Do you want me to give you the opportunity?" I said, "I do." He says, "I help them financially there, and they allow me to enter where the tomb of the saints is." He asks, "Which holy person do you want to see?" I say, "The one who heals everyone." But we always want something similar to ourselves. We only have desires like that. He says, "And Saint Agapit healed everyone." I said, "Excellent." I didn't know. They opened this lid for me. I knelt down at his feet and touched my head directly to his feet. Can you imagine? The monks allowed me. They didn't say anything. I touched my head to his feet, and an aroma passed through my head. Usually a fragrance comes from women when you smell it with your nose. And this aroma went through my entire body. I didn't smell it, it just that. This was the first thing that happened. And then I saw him right at the edge of the forest. He was standing sideways to me, not looking at me, looking somewhere upward and praying like that. And from his body, even though he wasn't looking at me, emanated such a force that made me. I saw how this power purified my entire being. Such power emanates from him, and my life starts to improve. All problems in the heart pass, all pains, all suffering, and everything is cleansed, my entire existence. This holiness means that light emanates from the person. This light cleanses your existence. If he cleansed your entire existence, do you owe him anything or not? What's surprising, he didn't even look at me. He just stood nearby, and my life became better because of this. Imagine what benefit this person brought to me.
Представьте, какую пользу человек сделал для меня.
Therefore, such holy people don't owe anything to anyone, even their mere presence. As stated in the scriptures, if a holy person settles in a populated area, that area immediately begins to prosper. Everything there falls into place, rains come on time, there are no climate problems. That's all. There was a king. He really needed to see a certain holy person. Only he could help him. The holy person lived in the forest and no one knew where he lived. It was secret information. And the king simply rode through the forest trying to figure out where the holy person was. And he says, I don't know how to find him. And one saint told him, he says, if you see a tiger and a deer lying next to each other and neither runs from the other and neither eats the other, it means that holy person is somewhere nearby. Well, that means that where a holy person is, everything calms down, violence and malice cease to exist there. And that's how he found him, by these signs. Where the sun shines brighter, where the grass is greener, where there is less wind, where there is more joy, more happiness, that's where the holy person is. And that's how they found this holy person. But a holy person is someone who gives constantly, and takes. Why does he give? That's because he is more connected to God. Therefore, when a person draws closer to God, they owe nothing to anyone because they constantly give, even through their presence. Because the purpose of human life in this world is to draw closer to God. And the most important activity is connected with this. I had an acquaintance. He simply lived in the temple as a monk. This was in India. He's Indian. And his mother became seriously ill. And there, family traditions are taken very seriously. His relatives called him to come to his mother. But there was no one to serve in the temple. His mentor said, stay at the temple. The Lord himself will help your mother. And he obeyed his mentor with great difficulty because all his relatives were saying, go immediately. And as soon as he made the decision not to go, his mother immediately began to recover. No one expected it. She stopped being sick because God took care of her health. What would be the point if he had come? Can he cure her? Can he do something to make her recover? He started serving God and his mother recovered on her own. But one should not imitate these things. Like I'll serve God. And what happens to my loved ones? In another city I had such a case. The girl's mother was very ill, and she went to a holy place instead of taking care of her mother. As a result, the mother passed away, but before that she bequeathed the apartment to the girl who had been taking care of her. And the daughter came back and found herself without housing. And rightly so, there's a feeling in the heart that the mother did the right thing because the daughter didn't fulfill her duty. She was overconfident. She thought that she was serving God so much that she didn't owe anything to anyone. In fact, one must be very careful here about being overconfident in one's service to God. It's not a fact that we serve so strongly that we don't owe anything to anyone.
Dr. Torsunov, what is a wife's duty to her husband and what is her duty to God as a woman?
What a great question. She didn't say what the husband's duty is to his wife. She didn't say it that way, you see. She's asking what the wife's duty is to her husband. This is what a person should think. If a person has dedicated their life to you, you must do what they need. What does every woman need? Yes, this is the most important thing, tender conversation and forgiving her whims. These are the two things that every woman needs very much, affectionate conversation and for her whims to be tolerated. Women, am I right or not? This is the greatest value for a woman, right? What is the greatest value for a man? Whose respect for what?
Obedience.
Correct. But we are all so greedy, so stingy, that if a man expresses his opinion, a woman immediately gets furious. If a woman throws tantrums, a man goes crazy. This means stinginess. We are very stingy people, therefore we are not meant to be together because of our stinginess. This is stinginess of the heart. Stingy. A woman should learn to listen to her husband's opinion, and a man should behave very tenderly with a woman and tolerate her whims. Then harmony is achieved. Is everything clear? But I'll add one more thing. If you want your wife to listen to your opinion, you must speak to her tenderly, tolerate her whims until she understands that you are a very good person. I'm saying this for the men. Women don't listen to this phrase. Now I'm speaking to the women. If you want him to speak to you tenderly, always respect his opinion. And the time will come when he will be so grateful to you that he will always speak tenderly and tolerate your whims. But if you've gotten involved with psychologists who call women hysterics and men abusers, then you will never get married and never marry, because you are cursed by these people. Because there are people who start putting labels on others. This labeling destroys human life, so never associate with those people who start blaming masculine nature for being masculine nature and blaming feminine nature for being feminine nature. But since the psychological field is mainly created by women, the tendency is usually toward blaming men. But both can be blamed equally because all women throw tantrums by nature and all men are despots. That's how the egos of men and women are structured. All men defend their opinions and all women throw tantrums. They don't want to submit or obey. There you go. But this is where the duty lies. If we live with a person, we must help them despite their foolishness, because all people are foolish in this world. We have a false ego. False ego means intelligence clouded by degradation. It means that a person only understands themselves, they cannot understand. A woman will never understand a man, never. A man will never understand a woman if he acts from a position of ego. For example, you might say, well, Dr. Torsunov, you understand. I understand women, but I don't interact with my wife from a position of ego. I take care of her. I allow her to be capricious. I speak tenderly and gently, even if she doesn't behave tenderly, and she gives me the same in return. Why? Because that's how this world works. Service always leads to harmony. It's not the search for some person that leads to harmony, but taking care of them. One man asked me, he says, here I have two options: to live with my wife, with whom I don't like the sex, I don't like anything, or to leave for my mistress, in whom I like everything. I say both options are fine. He says, yes, Dr. Torsunov, you've never elaborate on that. I'm saying it very simply. If you live with your wife, you'll go to heaven because you deprived yourself of pleasure in this life. You'll receive much more pleasure in the next one. If you leave for your mistress, you will enjoy yourself in this life, you won't get to heaven, and you might even end up in hell, depending on how much harm you cause with your actions to the people around you. That means that you can do whatever you want. The question is what? All people in this world, on this earth, are born for hardship, not for comfort, but for hardship. And if a person pays the price, they receive God's grace already here on this earth. If you sacrifice for your wife, you will be happier than you think. If you sacrifice for your husband, you will be happier than you think. But if you live for your own comfort, you will suffer. Most women in this world are lonely. The reason for loneliness is a strong desire for comfort. Most men are unsuccessful. No strength to earn money. The reason is a strong desire for comfort. A woman's comfort zone is relationships. She creates a comfort zone for herself in relationships. She doesn't want to give her feminine energy to anyone. She wants to enjoy it. Therefore, she remains alone because she doesn't want to give her feminine energy to anyone. And for a man, comfort zone is not giving away their energy in work. That's why they're poor. It is easier for a woman to give her energy in work than it is for a man. It's easier because this energy is not meant for ascesis. The energy of love is intended for a woman's asceticism. That means that she needs to share her sense of comfort, to share her comfort with a man. Why is it hard for a woman when her husband is constantly at home and she wants him to get out of the house for at least 3 hours? Right, ladies? Why? Because when he is nearby, she constantly gives him the energy of her comfort and she gets tired. When a man is nearby, she gives to him all the time. Why does a man get tired of his wife's demands regarding his work? Because she will always demand. A woman always wants money from a man. A man always wants comfort from a woman. But selfishly minded women don't want to give even a drop of their comfort to a man. Selfishly minded men don't want to give even a bit of money to a woman. And such people will be lonely. Why? Because they are selfishly inclined and don't want to sacrifice. And this creates a debt. Debt means that you are not doing what you are supposed to do. What should a woman do? Take care of them, give birth to children. This is her duty. Is working her duty or not? No. She can work if she does everything else. If a woman doesn't cook, that's incorrect thinking. She should take care of things first and foremost, and then work. This is correct thinking. But if she works first and takes care of her family second, this is incorrect thinking, which leads to women's loneliness. There is a woman's duty. A man must work first and in cleaning. This is not his duty. His duty before fate is to work. Who finds it harder to work, a woman or a man? To the man. Where is a woman's pleasure found?
At work.
Is a woman's pleasure at home? Help. Pleasure for a woman. Pleasure is home, staying at home. Sit at home, women don't want to take care because it's hard for a woman, she gives away. Her main resource, the energy of love, is his labor. If a man doesn't work, he becomes a debtor because he was born in a male body. If a woman doesn't take care of others, she becomes a debtor. If a man, will he have money? No. Will women debtors have a family? No. The person is living incorrectly. If you receive a male body, live as a woman. If you received a man's body, live as a man. Many men simply cannot work. I've been studying this, and there are men who simply cannot, and there are women who simply cannot live in a family. They don't have enough strength. This means one must perform healing practices, good deeds, to simply become a human. We are all in debt here. We are debtors. Interesting one. Many you owe money. Debts are. How can you tell that of anything? He is very happy. If you lack something.
What? The Lord won't ask about your comfort, but only about how many you gave rides to, or whether you considered yourself to be of a completely different sort. He won't, and about the size of the house, alas, he won't ask, but he will clarify. And how many found shelter in it? And how many? The Lord won't ask, what kind of food did you have? But will clarify, did you share it with many? Did other people concern you? Or did you spend your having fun? He won't ask you about work either. Were you a janitor or perhaps? But he will ask how many you showed care for, and how many people's lives you were concerned about at all. Answer, do you think you were useful? And how much love did you? Are you sure? And that you brought very little love with you. Think about it, lying to you, so that later there won't be unnecessary tears.
Yes, there are a lot of questions on the topic of debt.
Everyone is constantly in debt.
Nobody wants to admit it, right?
Of course, no one will admit to their debts. I don't owe anyone anything. And there is one woman, motivational speaker, psychologist, motivator. Women, this is very dangerous now. Women motivational psychologists specifically are very dangerous. They pander heavily to women in order to make a ton of money. One motivational psychologist, the main phrase she makes money on. Girls, you don't owe anyone anything. That's it, that's the core phrase. Girls, listen to yourselves, do what feels comfortable for you. The second core phrase, she's already in prison, made her fortune. There you go. My dear friends, whether you are girls or boys, we were born to pay off our debts. In paradise, everyone just enjoy. This is not paradise. We were born here to pay off our debts, not to enjoy life. There in paradise, everything is created for enjoyment. Okay, next question. So,
They're asking what amount can be lent so as not to become attached to the debt. Or here's another one in addition as well. How to lend money properly,
there's no way.
so that relationships don't get ruined later.
They will always deteriorate. Never lend money to anyone. Either just give it as a gift or don't give it at all. If the person wants to return it to you, let them return it. You can say it like that. If you can, you'll return it. You can give a small amount, but even with this amount, you can spoil a person. Because money has a terrible, horrible influence, it conditions people so strongly. A person genuinely thinks that they should be given money. Can you really imagine that? If a person is given money, he is convinced that he should be given money. This especially applies to people who engage in spiritual practice, and they start collecting donations because someone's house burned down. He really thinks and is convinced that everyone should donate to him for a new house, simply because he practices spiritual life. They start collecting donations from everyone. People donate to him. You need to be very careful. One needs to be careful with the word donation, because donations should only be collected by a person who doesn't work and only engages in spiritual practice. He doesn't have the opportunity to receive a salary, but he brings a lot of benefit to people, so they donate to him. He has such an exchange. He helps other people and people help him. This is very important to understand, but there are people who work and collect donations. This is very dangerous. Even more dangerous, like what I saw in the Moscow metro, a man standing there with such a sign, donate for booze. This is very dangerous. If you donate money for alcohol and someone accepts donations for alcohol, this is very dangerous. They both go straight to hell. Very careful with money. Do you want to help someone? Look, someone brought tangerines and gave them away. Something as a gift to an elder if you want. This is normal. The thing is that they actually needed gifts. Frankly, my wife takes all these gifts from me. Frankly, even those that I don't want her to take from me. You know why? People. My wife has such an attitude. She doesn't want to spend an extra penny on herself or on me. Very good. I am happy that she has such a mindset. She is very careful with every penny. If people bring us something, she gives it all away. Great. Keep something if it's truly needed. And we don't have anything unnecessary at home. We don't have closets full of things. There's everything we need for life, the basic items. It's very good to live like that. It's great. Although people constantly give me gifts, they keep giving me. I have a community, so to speak. If you visit anyone from this community, you can find my gifts there. And various souvenirs are hanging everywhere. There are lots of things everywhere. Wherever you look, there are my gifts everywhere. And it's so good, so great that it's this way. But it would be worse if we hoarded them. there probably wouldn't be any room at home for all these gifts. When you have no interest in gifts, then you can give gifts to a person. If there is no interest in money, one can give money away. It is important that a person who receives some sacrifice from someone does not consider it to be for themselves, because all sacrifices in this world are intended only for God, only for God. If a person lives for God and people donate something to them and they spend it on service to God, then this donation brings good fortune. But if someone receives donations and uses them for personal enrichment, if they use it simply to live, eat, sleep, and dress, no problem. If you give money to a person to enrich them, to make them richer, know that you are doing them a disservice. Because a person who doesn't deserve money will never prosper from this money. Rather, on the contrary, and they will become more stingy, greedy. And them, most likely 90%, will never pay you back this money, and you will ruin your relationship with them. This is especially true when you lend money to relatives. Family ties get destroyed. A very dangerous situation when parents have not properly arranged their will. Then a war begins between the where there is money, love is destroyed, everything. This is a very terrible force. Money is a terrible force that destroys absolutely everything. Therefore, never let. If you want to help someone, just give them money. But even in this case, you risk feeding his greed and this very mindset that everyone owes him. This is very dangerous thinking, especially for spiritual people. If you have started to think that everyone owes you something and that everyone should donate to you, this is incorrect thinking. But this doesn't mean that people don't repay their debts. There are many people. So you were given a loan, whether you'll pay it back or not, it's unknown. Pay it back and pass away. If you will have to pay it back. Of money that will be stolen from you, or deducted by a bank, for example. In other words, you will pay it back anyway, but if you pay it back voluntarily in this life, then in the next life you will pay it back involuntarily. All how this works. Again, if a banker takes more than he should from people, he will be in debt for all those people he has robbed. But not to these people. It's not that these people have to be born in hell together with him so that he can then repay his debt to them. Other people he simply owes. He will give. And it may take many lifetimes to repay. There live unfortunate savage people, terrible to look at but kind inside. The crocodile won't bite, the coconut won't grow. He cries to God, prays, sparing no tears. A lot of debt. People take out loans out of ignorance. They think that if they have a sum of money, then they will succeed. That's how it works. Let's say you have a certain amount of money, you can use it to rent a space, hire people, start organizing a cafe, and that's it. And the money started flowing in. You took out a loan, paid it back, and that's it. You have a business. That's how it's done. Now let's look at the downsides. So let's say you're not meant to have this money as a loan. What does this mean? This means that you don't know how to get along with people well enough for them to work at your cafe. This means you don't understand how to cook food. Organize the cooking so that people would eat and not choke. You don't know how to arrange the interior. You don't know how to pay taxes to the government. You don't know a whole lot of things. You don't know whether you should open a cafe in this location or whether people will come here to eat or not. There are places even in the very center where people will never go because the energy there is not conducive. You go there to eat and you choke. There's no normal energy there. This means that you must have enough piety to sense where people will eat, what they will eat, how to feed them now at this time. Let's say you have very, very delicious food, but you're preparing it not according to the standards that people like. For example, we prepare dumplings with love and devotion for holy people in India. You know what dumplings are? They're like pies, but made from boiled dough. And no one ate them. They ate everything except these dumplings. When we asked why they weren't eating, they said, "Why did you give us undercooked pakoras?" Well, that means that they know that such things should be fried, but they had never seen boiled ones. They don't understand that dough can simply be boiled. They don't have this knowledge. It's not customary for them in India. And it's the same here. They create vegetarian restaurants there and serve dishes that people have never seen before. Give them a vegetarian sausage. You don't need to say that it's vegetarian. You shouldn't call it a vegetarian restaurant. It's a scary word altogether. A scary word. You need to write healthy eating restaurant. A person walks in, there are sausages, sandwiches, they're just made from wheat, cutlets made from wheat, from soy, various side dishes, and vegetarian chicken too. And so on. Lots of delicious, healthy things. Coffee without coffee, tea without tea, eggs without eggs. Everything is tasty and healthy. The person has eaten and he's healthy, he says, "Such delicious food. Totally awesome. Thank you." And everything is prepared with prayer. This is how it should be done. Understand. And eating this fast food. We'll make healthy food that looks like fast food on the outside. Make everything healthy. Food is nutritious. But if a person doesn't have this knowledge and they took out a loan, everyone will scatter, they'll take their salary and bail, they'll all bail. That's it. They won't have anything. They don't know how to feed people, how to cook, how to present, how to advertise all of this. They think, "I'll just take the money now, and that's enough to succeed." Money is the very first thing a person should acquire is the piety to open this restaurant. When a person has piety, they have the knowledge of how to communicate with people and what food to prepare. All of this is called different types of piety, which make it possible to open a restaurant. Why would you need money then? Here's an example from real life, how one of my acquaintances opened a restaurant. I'll share his story. He's taking his time and simply began giving people food, cakes, various personalized cake sculptures, and things like that. He started giving them away to acquaintances. Well, as a hobby, he started doing this. Then people say, "Wow, your cakes are amazing. They're also beautiful, personalized too. Let's buy from you." Okay, he started selling.
Ну ладно, начал продавать.
In short, there were a lot of orders. He can no longer keep up on his own. All right, he hired an assistant. Then there wasn't enough space in the kitchen, a small apartment. He rented a facility for production, but he himself just delivers the goods. Then they decided to open a small cafe with 2 tables and later a restaurant. 5 years passed and his restaurant is already thriving with a lot of visitors. And he didn't take a single penny on credit. Because a person doesn't need money, they need brains to develop a business. You should always go from small to big in any activity. And this is the right approach in life. This is how you should always do it. And you'll understand whether you have the karma at all to work with people, to cook, to distribute, whether you'll have customers or not. You can make it look very beautiful on the outside, but inside, when a person takes a bite, they'll spit it out. Why? Because you don't have the fate for it. You don't know how to make it tasty. You only know how to make it tasty for yourself, but you don't know what tastes good to others. I once hired a monk to cook food who really loves to cook. I thought, if he loves to cook, that means he cooks, because you explain everything to him in detail. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. And he does it the wrong way anyway because he has peculiar taste preferences. We later realized that very sour food suits him, and each person only cooks for themselves. And he thinks, well, okay, they forbade putting lemon, so I'll put tamarind and everything in tamarind. Not in lemon, then in tamarind, not in tamarind, then in ginger. In short, he wore us out. It's simply impossible to eat because he loves very sour food. He needs everything to have a sour taste. And he thinks like this when he tastes it. He thinks, not tasty, there's no sour taste. Everyone was gagging because it was so unpalatable. We had to replace it. That means that he loves to cook, but no one can eat it because he doesn't know how to make food that tastes good to other people. Or an artist paints pictures, but nobody buys them because he doesn't have the knowledge of what people find beautiful. He thinks about what's beautiful to him, but what's beautiful to him is such that others... In other words, borrowed money doesn't help develop a business. What helps is the piety that you accumulate. Let's say you started selling little by little, then began selling more money appeared, and so on. And this gradual process itself will help you develop the ability to think like a businessman, and an understanding of what sells, and an understanding of how to communicate with people. You had one assistant there, you struggled with him, but you learned how to communicate with him, and so on. Gradually, over the course of about 2 years, you'll learn everything on a small scale and you'll live modestly. But at least you gain the skill. And then gradually you develop your own business. And when you already have people working for you and your products are selling and everything is going well, and you just need a little bit more money for things to really take off, then take out a small loan. That's when you can take out loans, when everything has been worked out. Once you take out a small loan, things will start moving for you. Now, why take out large loans? But when you have a large production and you don't have enough for reconstruction, and you have everything worked out, then take a large loan. You have a large-scale production. Now, one businessman asked me, how can I take out a loan and not go bankrupt? I say you can ask the Lord about this internally. And he will always answer you. He doesn't hide anything at all.
He says, how do I ask?
Come on, tell me, give me this knowledge. It's very simple. Just write down the amount. Let's say 50,000, 200,000, 500,000. I'm saying, look, this amount, 500,000, this is just a super loan for you. You're shaking with happiness if you take it. Or 200,000. Well, it's okay. We'll cover some needs. Overall, that's not bad either. And if it's 50,000, a really small one like that, it's like 50,000 doesn't trigger any reaction inside me, he says. 500,000, if I calculate everything and think it through, I'll pay it back. But it's really necessary. And 200,000, I'll pay it back without much strain, but it's a very good amount. I told him which amount difficult, and 500 will cause problems. Because a person thinks they don't anticipate that they will have a bad period. He doesn't account for the possibility that he'll be on sick leave. You don't think about that now. It's complete madness to think that way at all. This is a mistake. If a person borrows an amount that they can easily repay, then there will be no problems. In life, you can only take on what you feel comfortable with. I recently spoke who had 3 candidates. I really liked one of them, but he didn't like her. Calm, but no thrill. A calm feeling, no thrill. And with the third, there's pleasure, but not. Who should she marry? For the second one, with whom you feel calm, there's no thrill, calmly. That means the Lord has given you this person. Because where there is there is also bad fate. Remember, where you strongly enjoy a person, there is always bad fate. It's a trap. By strongly enjoying a person, you see that the person is not that great, but you still want to be with them. It's a trap. Calmly. Life awaits. But there's no thrill there, no strong love. Just a good, calm person. Harmonious relationship, calm. They don't, therefore they suffer. The more pleasure you experience somewhere and you really feel that you're shaking from pleasure in this area, there will be just as much suffering. Remember, if you experience a lot of it's a perpetual motion machine, everyone wants to enjoy very much. I want such a man, damn it. Then there will be him, I want this woman. There will be just as much suffering, but you don't see the suffering, the pleasure. There's no such thing. You think you'll experience eternal happiness with this person, but also eternal suffering. Let's assume not eternal suffering, but only eternal happiness. Can this be with a person your whole life, and there are no problems at all? It's possible that you lived your whole life so well, you simply never had a single argument. Everything was great, everything was good, everything was excellent. It's possible. This is a curse. You will be searching for this person, thinking about them, and you will never meet them because you already received that pleasure. Now get rid of your bad karma. There's no such thing as a free lunch. And it happens that a person enjoys their whole life because they wanted it so much, and then they will suffer in loneliness for their whole life because they will be searching for such a person with whom to enjoy their whole life. But now it's no longer meant to be. This is called debt. Therefore, you shouldn't want more than you need. End up alone because this is not paradise. They are. Get used to it, endure it. Do you want unearthly women? You'll also end up alone. On earth, both men and women are much the same. This is dangerous thinking. A person should live with what they have now. Let's say, for example, you can't get married. So a person cannot get married. When he goes into the zone of debt and when he goes into the zone of happiness, there is a zone of debt, there is a zone of happiness. When does he go into the zone of debt? When does he go into the... A person enters the zone of debt when he cannot get married but wants to very badly. He becomes unhappy. What should he do if he can't get married? Engage in healing practice, spiritual practice, and self-education. Like one monk who didn't want to get married. He can also go into the zone of debt, because who has the right not to get married? Well, let's say a person lives in a temple and enjoys life. It's great there, they feed you, there are holy people, a pure atmosphere all around, everything is blessed, the very best. Are there people who understand this or not? Yes, the most intelligent people on earth. They know that living in a temple is the best food, the best people, the best atmosphere, and they enjoy it. To serve, not to enjoy. One such monk came up to me and asked, Tata, how can I avoid getting married my whole life? He didn't ask how to serve God my whole life, how to dedicate my life to God, how to perform healing practice for God. How can I avoid getting married for the... I said, you won't be able to avoid... He says, why? I say, because you'll be able to remain unmarried only as long as your devoutness accumulates, until you become desirable to women. Because there is a certain level of a man's development when he becomes highly desirable to women. As soon as he becomes needed, he will immediately be in demand. He says, how much longer will I be unwanted? I say, 5 years. You will live for 5 years, and your devoutness will... And at the moment when there will be enough devoutness to get at least some happiness with you at all, girls will start looking at you. And when they start looking at you, you will lose control. And therefore, sooner or later, you will leave the temple to get married. Because women don't let go of their prey until they win. That's it. They know how to do it. Come on, tell me. I see everything, who is conscious of it and who is not. I see how everyone looks at each other. I see. They all do it consciously. They know exactly who they want to impress. Sometimes, of course, it happens that a woman tries, but it doesn't work out. That happens. But when they see that it's working, they know it for sure. They have no problem with this knowledge. God has given women the knowledge of when someone likes them and when they don't. Isn't that right, ladies? Why are you being shy? Look at me. Everyone got shy. Okay, good. When a person is unhappy, it's when he doesn't accept what God is giving him right now. God always gives the very best right now. So if a man cannot get married right now, he is being given the best life possible. You should do healing practices. Then when you get married, you will already understand that you can no longer do this. Around the temple all day, you can't pray, you can't perform healing practice for so long because you need to work and feed your family. Be happy spending time with friends, doing healing practices, praying and learning. You don't have time for this because you got married. People are greedy, they constantly want something they're not meant to have. They suffer all the time. Separation is the strongest feeling in this world. If a person experiences such love in separation towards God, then they will break free from this material existence. And if it's toward a woman, then in the next life he will resemble that woman. That's the maximum he will get. Separation is always good. However, if you are in separation because you cannot get married, then this is greed. You are an undeveloped person. You don't understand what you need to be doing right now. When a person is undeveloped, they should rejoice in development because development is the best life on earth. When you work on yourself, when you perform healing practice, wish everyone happiness, pray, and learn to eat properly. This is the best life on earth. That's it. And a person should always live this way. How to live without debts. Let's figure this out. Look here. You won't understand me now. Of course you won't understand, because I am telling you one of the greatest wisdoms in this world right now. If is content with what God gives them and rejoices in life from what God has given, and this is very difficult, it is very ascetic to rejoice in what God gives you. It is very difficult to ascetically rejoice in fresh air. And this is the best thing there could be. If you have learned to enjoy fresh air, you are a truly happy person because this fresh air increases life expectancy. The sun increases life expectancy. Cold water increases life expectancy. But people don't want to rejoice in this. They are afraid of air, water, and the sun. If you have learned to rejoice in the people who surround you, to accept them as they are, to rejoice in the sun, air, water, food, your solitude or low salary, to rejoice in everything that God has given you, that's excellent. If you accept all of this, from that moment on, everything will be good for you.